Hi. So I just wanted to make a quick video, possibly quick, but on how to create a simple inventory management system in Visual Studio's version 2022. So I'll just open this one. This one is the what we're gonna be looking at, but I will show you how to basically create the project. Everything else you will need. This will not go into the depth of creating controls or restrictions on what you put in the database and whatnot. It's just basically going to be showing you how to create the database, create the database model for it, and also make sure that you can remove, edit, and add stuff in the database. So for this one, you will need to create a new project. Also, the dependencies on you'll need. So what you will need is you can just search up WPF here, but basically you will need is this a Windows Forms app using the .NET framework, which you will basically need. If I just click on next, these ones are the ones that I recently used. So it was this one right here, WPF app .NET framework uh, for C hash. Click next. So it has to be whichever version, but usually you want to kind of make this work. Maybe try using the latest one. Just basically create that, but I will not be doing it. I already have it. Really quick, kind of. So basically, you're gonna start off is with the main window extensible markup. Um, you'll have this displayed with nothing on the screen whatsoever, but basically you will need is the three buttons that you will need, which you'll need to add, edit, or remove. And also you will need a simple data grid in order for you to display all the necessary items that you have in your database. So enough of that one. Basically you're gonna need to start adding these here and also naming them properly accordingly. This one is properly named as button add, then button edit, button removed. And when you're in the screen right here, once you've already added the buttons, you can pretty much just double click on each and every single one of these buttons, and it will create its own function for you within this window, the code for this window. It's in C hash. Now, for the dependencies on what you will need for making sure that you have a database and a database model that you could use. So basically, for the database, it's pretty much this one. It's an MDF file, a file-based database that you can add through here. You can right click on the project itself right here, and then click on Add New Item, and then go to Data. We'll choose service-based database. You will create the database and name it accordingly. Once you have created the database, you will end up with this screen right here, the Server Explorer. Make sure that you click on refresh. Now, the first time you open this, you will not have a table. You won't have a table within this folder, but I already have created items. But in order for you to add a table within the database, you will need to right click and make sure that you are connected to the database itself. So you just click on add new table right here. And once that is done loading, you will be presented with this screen right here. Now, you will have to basically add all the necessary information that you might need for your database. But for now, once that's done, you can click on update and update database, and it'll create the table that you want. So it's just going to create a table called table. Now, you can double click on this right here, show you the exact SQL code that is needed to create this. Now, I have set this up to for the idea to use this identity, which basically means that when you add new items in this table or in this database within this table, you will not have duplicate IDs. So this just stops it from you inputting uh, new items that will have the same ID and whatnot. So basically, that's just what it looks like. Date added is set to date time. These are set to characters or strings. The ID is obviously an integer. Now, enough of that. Once that table is created, it creates this table within the database. Now, if you want to add existing items within the said database, you can just go right click on the table, go click on show table data. You can basically just add a new item in here. So for this demonstration, let's just say we're gonna add a case, a Corsair case. Then maybe let's just say you bought that or you added this in the database in 2012 of also September 1. Now if I click on refresh, it will assign it to the next idea available, and then you will have the information that you basically wanted within inside the database. Okay. So once that is done, you will now need to make sure in the nugget packages that you have entity framework. Now, obviously, I already have entity framework installed in this project, which basically installs the DLL that you need in order for you to use the database model. Is this one, the ado.net. And the database model, which I will show soon. So basically, just go right click on that, manage nugget packages, search here for entity framework, whichever one works. The latest one will obviously work the best, possibly, for the latest version of your project. So now, once again, now we will look at the database model, which is this one right here, the .edmx file. Now, moving on, click on data, or usually you can just search it on in here on the top right. But basically, you will need to create a database model. So let's just call this test, everyone, but we're not gonna use it anyway. So you will choose from one of these. Once you get into it a little bit more, you will have better idea on how to use uh, data models. But basically, usually it's just go for the left one. Now you will make sure that you are selecting the right and proper database that you will use for this database model. Now, make sure that you will remember this one here at the bottom, which you will need to use as a class that you will create within your code, and it will uh, help your program communicate with the database file. So usually it's just that, and then click on next, and you will end up with, I'll just click cancel because you will end up with this. It'll also ask you to um let's see here, choose which tables you might need. I'll just do this right quick. Click on that. Click on that also. Then it'll basically ask you which tables or views, if you created some, stored procedures and functions, which tables you need for this data model, which is also called, you know, this. Now, yeah, and then you click on finish, and it'll create everything that you need in order for your program to basically communicate with the database file, which is over here. As you can see, it gets the value, sets the value, and everything is already auto generated, as explicitly over here, automatically generated for you. And you can update it when you update the database with new information, with maybe new columns for your table. Um, you will also need to basically delete this file, or maybe there's a better way of doing it, but I usually just delete it and then create a new, add another database model. Once that is done, you have these two files. You can now start working on the code itself. So you now have these. Now, these are now named properly, and the functions for the buttons have already been created. Now, what I usually do is just set the data grid itself as read only, true, so I don't have to mess up and accidentally type something within the data grid itself. So once you have that, you will now have a window, just like, wait for a little bit here, just like so. But in order for your data grid to fill up with the necessary information that you need, you'll have to put it in code itself. So you will now have this window right here, and you can design it just the way you want, but I will not delve into that. So the next part here is we need to populate. We need to make sure that this one gets populated with the necessary information that you have in your database. So make sure that you create a global variable. It doesn't necessarily have to be public. You can also make sure, or set it as private, as long as you only use it within this class itself. Okay. Now, in order to populate the data grid, make sure that you have the proper name, which is DG items. That over here. Make sure, and as soon as you open the application, this will query the database right here, DB. This creates a new connection within the database that you will use to basically, communicate with the database itself. Now, in order for you to populate the uh, the table itself or the data grid, make sure that you call in or type in the data grid's name. Then make sure you select, or you call in the function item source and set that as the query for um, the entire table, or whichever table that you need. And then make sure that you turn that to a list that the data grid can understand. Now, the next part here is adding. Actually, let's just move in towards remove instead, actually. Yes. On removing items in the database, in the data grid. So this one isn't quite necessary, but basically what I should just do is just this. It grabs the whichever item that you've selected within the table. So basically this line of code right here, this entire data grid right here is DG items. So selected items, it can be multiple items. So usually I set that to only single. It'll only select one item. So you have is this selected item right here, which is on index 0, which is the one that's highlighted. And you set that as item, and then you basically copy the information that is in here. The ID, water, the description, the date you added it. Just minimize that one. So this one is just a try catch block. If you don't have anything selected, it doesn't do anything. You click on remove. And then the next part here is create another item. A new item basically. But this item is basically queried, or you're asking the database to give you where the item is, the proper information. If the item exists within within the database itself, this is basically asking the database if, hey, do you have the item variable that has been selected within the data grid itself. And if it does, it will basically give you the information you need. And basically now you have the uh, the item directly from the item information directly from the database. Now you can basically just remove it by calling in the database and whichever table it is, and then using the remove function for the table, and then you use the variable for the item that you want to remove. Then make sure that you use database and then dot save changes, which basically saves changes um, in the database. And then after you've clicked remove, the last line of code is usually just repopulating the data grid once again with with the new information. So let's say I add a test with for 3 confirm. Now I have added test. Like if I click on remove, it will also repopulate the database or the data grid once again. There it is. So if I remove this, the first index, it automatically updates the data grid. Okay, now we have remove already done. So the next one is adding. For adding new items, you don't necessarily have to create a new WPF form. You can just basically have it set within the window itself. But or a form or window, right? But for me, what I usually do is create a new window. Once you've created a new window, just name it whichever one that you need for that specific button, which is add item, which I already have, which will create this sensible markup version or a view for it, so that I can actually see it. Oh, that one's app. Sorry, I clicked on app. What, this one here. Add item, and then you just basically make sure that you have all the necessary information that you need, or the required information for creating or adding an item. You have 2 buttons. Like I said, it doesn't have to be necessarily built this way. You can have it set up somewhere here for buttons or thing like that. So just add or whichever one. Basically, I have it set up this like this. Have 2 buttons, and then have 2 text boxes for the text. and also a date picker for the time and date when you added, or just the date actually, the date when you added this item database. Once you've also have these, make sure that you have the proper names for the code for you to use in code. Now let's move in to the code itself for adding items. So once again, you will have to create another database connection. This one. Now for this one, once you've created the window itself, you will not have this line of code right here. The main window, main window. It won't be there. Basically, I've set it up so when you create or call in, when once you click, see here, once you've clicked on the button add, it will create a new window which is called the add item window. This will also take in this currently running window and all of its current information into this window, which is this line over here. So now I have also set it up so this window can be used globally within this class. So I've created a variable for it, the main window variable for it, or object, sorry, for the currently running window, and I've set it up so it's exactly the same as the one, the global variable, or it's referring to this, to the window. In order for me to update the information, the data grid itself within this within the code of the add item window. Once that is done, basically this one is already set up. Once you Now for the next part is setting up these two buttons. You click on cancel, but obviously this closes only this window, the add item window. So the next one is when I click on confirm button, it will add the item with the information that you've inputted into the database, which is this one right here, which calls in the database, the table or the items table, and then also adds this new information that you've added through the two text boxes and the date picker. This one right here, date picker added. Usually it's just select the date, then value for dates. Now that one's for the item name, text box, and then the dot text. So I don't have anything set up in order to stop you from putting in nulls or the wrong information. I will not delve into that uh, deeply. So it's just going to be just this simple information on how to basically connect, add, edit, and move database items in a database within a Windows WPF executable. So make sure once you've added the new item into the database, make sure that you save the changes, and then make sure that the window, which was referring to this one, the main window, now it's referring to the global variable, referring to the one that basically created this add item window. Now, make sure that you're referring to the main window, the table or the data grid, DG items. Then make sure that you set up the item source to query the database once again, and also make sure that list. So that is for the add item. If I click on start here, just to demonstrate the add item, so, which I already have actually. Let's just say, let's call this one a speaker, Logitech speaker. And let's say you bought it like last August 1st, 2023, and then if I click on confirm, it will add it into the data grid itself right there. Really have to do much. That you don't. This one doesn't close when you click on confirm. It only closes when you click on cancel. See now, once that is done, that is now in database itself. I have to move that. Then so now the add item works. So the next one, and lastly, edit, which will not be which won't be exactly the same as add, because this one will take in the currently selected item in the database and as a parameter, and also the main window as a parameter. So it takes in the item that you have selected. So just like this, let me just demonstrate quickly. So takes in this information and also this information. I don't necessarily have to do this part. Once I have this code, right, line of code right here, you can pretty much just do it. I just put this one, this extra parameter, just to be kind of like specific on what I need. I don't have to see this line of code again. I just click on edit and it shows me the current information within here. I'll cancel that one, close this. Um, let's run a debugged version for it, which for the let's just run the executable without it being on debug or whatever. Yeah, without debugging. So yeah, it takes in the selected item and also this window, the main window. So let's just go inside the edit item window, which looks almost actually exactly the same kind of, except for the title on the top left right there. And obviously the cancel button functions exactly the same way as the one in add item, and confirm kind of also functions exactly the same way as adding an item. These ones also function the same way. No confirmations or anything like that to prevent you from editing with the wrong information. I want to delve into that as I said. So let's just open up the code for that item and compare um, from what it looks like. Let's just separate that, view this. So here it is. Here's the difference with between add item and um, edit item. Item doesn't necessarily um, need, like I said, doesn't necessarily need this. It usually only needs this, because you can pretty much do this. Main window. You just open up the that. Here it is. And here, basically, you can just do is this. query the database for the item, or no, not query the database. Sorry, grab the selected item through this window. So I can just basically do this main window dot dg items, and it works exactly the same way. You don't necessarily this. So just for a quick demonstration, I can remove this now like that, and then I can also this like so, and it will work exactly the same way. All I have is this selected items, and just do this just like that, and it should still work regardless of the specifying the item now. Okay, so this line of code basically gets the selected item. This one gets the main window, turns it into a global variable that you can use within this class. Also, this one is the database, obviously. And then after that one, this one is just the global variable for the currently selected item, which is um, applied or gets a value once um, from the main window, the data grid. So after that, with this information, you can now start populating the text boxes with the necessary information that you have selected, such as these ones: the description, text, selected item, dot item description, the date selected on the when you've added the information or the date that you've selected from way back. Then you just go and selected item dot date added, and that populates the edit. Now I can just close the add item of that. I can go back here. So if I click on this, it should still run regardless, and it should still work same way. So if I click on that and on the case, click on edit, does that. On this, click on edit, gives me monitor. Click on keyboard, it gives me the information for keyboard. So that is this line. Now for editing, actually editing the information, it is this one. It will ask for the uh, the item itself within the database. Will query the database for the item from which you have the information from the data grid. So once you have the information within the data grid itself, the one that you've selected, that's an item, turns into an item that is the global variable, which also has the idea, which you will need when you're looking for the item within the database itself. This is now the item within the database itself, which you will be editing. So now this line over here edits, makes sure that the one that you have, or the information that you have on the text boxes and the date picker is going to be the new information for the specific item with the specific idea with the new information in the edit items window. Once that is there, once the information has been updated for this variable, you will now then use the database once again, the items table, instead of just add on using the add function for the table. You will instead use add or update. and you will use the new information for the item itself. And basically, this will either add a new item or update the current existing information for that specific item. Then, after you have edited or updated the information, you will now have to save the changes. And once the changes have been saved within the database, you will now also once again query the database itself to populate the data grid once again with the new information. So just to demonstrate this once again, let's click on start the application. I will click on the mouse. So I got the information wrong. It's not actually a mouse. It's a let's say a draw pad. Draw pad. A draw pad. I can click on confirm. And once I have clicked on confirm, it will change the information in the data grid accordingly. And once again, I got it wrong. What do I do? It's actually a mouse. So I just have to change that again to mouse. And now it is a mouse again. So yeah, that is basically it. Um, as for anything else, I do not want to delve into it because it will be kind of like a long video. So that's pretty much it. Move, edit, monitor, monitors. Uh, let's say 5 Dell monitors. It is 5 Dell monitors, and we're here. Let's say let's add case again because I actually didn't want to remove the case. Like that, Corsair case, select date, um 4th of October this year, confirm, and again it is there. And I think that is pretty much it. If you want the source code for this, it will be available on the description of this live stream or video now, actually. Yeah, I think that is pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Yeah, so for the source code, I'll just leave it in the description, just so you can have reference to look at or something like that. This one is just simple, just a few lines of code. There's no regex or anything like that to stop you from putting in the wrong information. As so yeah, pretty much it. Thank you for watching.